Dragon. Dragon glad to find smart, civilized human. Human fixer of machinery, no less, was helping Cyborg when Dragon approach. Good. Fixers and helpers always good to find. And this one listen well when Dragon explain problems. Taken from Earth by bad bug people, crash on other planet, meet Robin Human and Zephyr Shellman, taken again into space, end up here, chased by bad humans. Fixer help? Fixer help. Name self Jacinta, say we'll get to safer hiding place, then find good people to talk to instead of bad people. Dragon make sure Fixer know of Shellman, who say silly movie greeting to make Fixer laugh. Laughter good. Fixer not know shell language, but like Zephyr anyway. Take phone from bag, explain calling friends, start talking to it. Dragon wait, watching bushes for bad people. Shouts in distance, but none up close. Shellman look nervous. Have heart of mouse with owls overhead. Dragon try to comfort. Pat on back, but startle him more. Dragon sigh, give up, watch for trouble. Fixer put away phone and say friend with car on way. Good. Dragon spend time answering Fixer's questions about bad men, what clothes and hair humans wear. Dragon not pay attention to boring details, but show nice new hat to Fixer. Maybe that useful information. Fixer say yes, helpful. Bad people wearing clothes of good people, this big problem. Dragon again unimpressed with people in charge of space station. No knowledge of sign language, bad people in with good. Obviously many people failing at jobs. At least Fixer seem competent. She explain all things to Dragon's curiosity, even bag of tools. This give Dragon something to do while waiting. Soon car with friend beep from other side of bushes. Fixer tell Dragon to stay quiet while she talk to friend. Dragon agree, ready to grab Shellman and run again if need to. Shellman stay close, more nervous than before. Dragon would explain, but no language between them. Fixer come back, tell them to hurry. Dragon pick up Shellman, only slightly noisy, and follow Fixer around bushes to car. His small car of shiny rainbows, very bright. Maybe enough room for Dragon to fit. Fixer throw bag into trunk, open door for Dragon, looking around for bad people. Dragon stick head inside car. Driver is Bugman. Dragon snarl and jerk back, turning to Fixer accusingly. Bugman, like stinging bugs that took Dragon from Earth. Fixer hurry to calm Dragon. Different Bugman, she sign. Good bug, not with bad bugs. It takes some convincing, but Dragon finally get in car when Fixer spot bad people in distance. Dragon push Shellman in and shut door, find seatbelts like humans love on Earth. Fixer get in front of car with Bug, say to drive fast. Bug drive very fast. Bad people not follow. Dragon watch space station go by, not impressed, but maybe get better.
Jacinta.
I'd had my share of problems sprung on me since the lockdown started, but this was the winner so far. An alien from a newly contacted world in the company of a gorilla of all things, running from security in a public park. Never have I been so glad for standard spacer sign language training. It always comes in useful. Talking with the hard of hearing, talking in loud environments, talking with clients like the one I'd just finished with, whose augmented hearing was on the fritz. But I'd never talked with a gorilla before. Luckily, his signs were close enough to standard that I could figure them out. I kept my cool, though it was a stretch. The fact that this guy and his little friend, what were they called, armadillo turtles, were hiding from security was honestly not a surprise, given the current state of things. But it sure made life tricky. My first thought was to get them somewhere they could hunker down until the seers could sort the corrupt officials from the trustworthy. My second thought was the safe houses that Khan liked to brag about. My third thought was transportation. These two wouldn't be hitching a ride on my emergency mechanic jetpack, and they needed to get out of sight fast. Now who did I know who drove fast? Vitter arrived in 3 minutes flat. It took almost as long to convince the pair that no, really, he was one of the good ones. Vitter showed admirable restraint in only muttering darkly to himself about all the ways the crime family was soiling his species' good name. Finally, we were all belted in and rocketing off down the road. I craned my neck, watching for pursuit. There had been a couple people in security uniforms jogging around the far end of the park, but none seemed to watch us leave. I sat back in my seat and made more calls. I could communicate with the gorilla, but the little alien's language was just a wash of noise to me. Those guys weren't expected to make an appearance off-planet for some time yet, and I was willing to wager that precious few people on this station would have put in the time to learn their language. People like a diplomat from another species, trusted with paving the way between her own people and a great many others. Lucky me to have such a person as a friend. Lucky me to be a mechanic who ranged far and wide on the station, meeting people and making friends from all walks of life. Maybe tomorrow would bring a disaster that only my book club could solve. Or the nice folks from the class on cooking with off-world ingredients. They'd probably be up for some adventure. Roka answered her phone and immediately rescheduled the rest of her day. The most pressing thing she had planned was sitting in on a meeting among her own people about terraforming a moon, and there would be just oodles more meetings about that before the approval went through. Missing this one was fine. She agreed to join us ASAP at the same secluded place I'd already asked Khan to head for. Vitter would undoubtedly get there first. I was not disappointed. We zipped from an area of warm, sunlit ceiling panels into one of cool blue twilight and dodged a few slower cars on the way into the tunnels of the decorative labyrinth. This place had been designed as the equivalent of that sunny park for a species that preferred more dim lighting, but it was honestly used more by human teenagers looking for privacy. At any rate, it didn't hold much in the way of spying opportunities. Line of sight was short. Vitter slowed when he drove through the bead curtains, grumbling threats that the decorations had better not damage his car. Driving a cautious speed now, he eased us through the maze-like collection of luminescent fountains, plants, and all-weather cushions. Finally, he stopped at the big room with the fountain that sprayed overhead, which dripped too much for anyone to seek it out on purpose. At least the drips were only on one side of the room. As suspicious as our two guests looked when they exited the car, I doubted they would take well to surprise dampness. "Why don't you two make yourselves comfortable while we wait?" I suggested to the gorilla. He huffed in agreement and claimed several firm cushions, spreading out regally. The little guy followed him to settle down on another. He rocked a moment, looking like he might topple backwards, but he recovered with the kind of too smooth calm that said he hoped desperately that no one had seen it. I did him a favor and looked away. Vitter filled the air with opinions and casual complaints. Room is smelling of pond water. Mildew maintenance is woefully behind in their work, but is to be expected with this kind of fungus-friendly space. I was glad that he had something new to grumble about. Khan arrived in an on-duty car and a cheerful flurry of tentacles. The first he parked beside Vitter, and the second he startled the guests with. I hadn't told him over the phone exactly what to expect, for fear of someone overhearing or even recording his calls. So he was a little surprised now to look past us and see two species that had absolutely zero business being on this space station. "Who the what the how?" he recited, flailing theatrically before calming down when he saw the little guy flinch again. The gorilla just stared like Khan was a mystery that needed unbroken eye contact to solve. To be fair, Khan certainly looked bizarre to any earthling eyes who'd never seen a strong arm before. He was wearing his uniform vest today, with all the subtle tech armor that entailed, and his hat too. But that just made him look like a particularly civilized octopus. I told Khan the short version of the explanation. He agreed that I'd done the right thing. And yes, he knew of a safe house that he could swear to be free of crime connections. His friend had set it up personally. He made the call, and Roka arrived while he was on the phone. I hurried to fill her in. Her face lit up around the breathing mask when I made it clear that we needed her to translate for a species that her people hadn't officially contacted yet. She'd been studying the language in hopes that this newest species would venture out among the stars sooner rather than later. "I am honored," she told me, sketching a bow before hopping over to where Zephyr sat. I told her his name, and I hoped that it hadn't gotten mistranslated somewhere, between him to human to gorilla to me and now to Roka. We were in luck. If I'd thought Roka looked delighted moments ago, it was nothing compared to this poor guy's visible joy at meeting someone who spoke his language instead of English. They were off and talking, and if his name had gotten accidentally turned into fart or tornado, he hit it well.